Welcome to Super Movie Brothers. Let's start the show.
This is a podcast on the Podfix Network. You can check out more shows like it at podfixnetwork.com.
Welcome to Super Movie Brothers, episode 85. I'm your host, Super Movie Brother Dave.
I'm your host, Super Movie Brother Jay.
Feels good to be back. It feels like we've been away for a long time.
Kind of, yes.
But really, all we did was we did a movie cocktail, and we...
That's all.
We recorded a movie cocktail. We did do that, and that should be coming out the week after this. So that is going to be a movie cocktail that is on a film that people who listen to the show have been asking us to do for a very long time.
Yes.
Super Mario Brothers.
It's here. It finally came.
And much to my chagrin, every time I cannot fucking fathom how that movie got made. I can't.
And you can blame me because I'm the one who nominated this 100% film.
do.
I
would have accepted, even though it was 90s video game films, I would have accepted like anything outside of the 90s.
But the fact that I've only seen two movies in that category that we had to choose from, one was Mortal Kombat, and two, unfortunately, was Super Mario Brothers. And I chose it for the fans because there were people out there that wanted us to talk about that movie.
Just a bit of a spoiler.
As terrible as it is.
Just a bit of a spoiler for that episode when it comes next week. Jay didn't actually watch the movie before coming to record that episode.
No, but I saw it when I was a kid, and
Oh, congratulations.
I blocked out, all the bad stuff.
It's all bad stuff. All of it's bad stuff. So that's coming next week. For this episode that we got here, me and Jay are just going to be, it's going to be a very short, it's going to be very toit episode for everybody. So we're going to go through some of the shit that we watched this week, give our impressions of everything that we watched this week. And then me and Jay are going to get into our beers with a very special Olympic themed beer segment, sort of ish.
Arsh.
And then we're going to finish out this segment of movie homework, and Jay is going to give his review of Akira, and I'm going to give my review of Little Children. So, Jay, since you and I haven't really gotten together to talk about like what we've been up to, because we did Black Panther last week, and then we've kind of skipped a week here, even though listeners have gotten an episode. Me and you haven't really gotten to catch up. So, what have you been up to, man?
Yeah, I know. Work has been fucking hell. To be very blunt.
It's funny because last episode you said like you took a break. You took a day off just for mental health.
I know, and it's still been pretty bad. And then also, and the fact that we had a couple clients of mine that were just uber over the top troublemakers that were just destroying the program, and us being short staffed, everything was just terrible, really terrible. So. Luckily, we did an emergency thing where we got rid of both of those two clients and relocated them on the main campus to a better area.
Well, your program that you're in is a transitional program. You're supposed to be transitioning them back into
optimally.
But
right. Unfortunately, we get a hybrid of a bunch of different kind of clients that. Some have a real shot at the future out in the real world to make something of themselves, and other times there are clients that are going to be in a either an institution or a mental health facility or potentially even jail sometimes, unfortunately. So you get a mixed bag at times, and these kids weren't helping anybody, and we couldn't help them anymore, and it was one of those things where we just needed to move them out to a different location. And today was the last day for the one girl, so. Hopefully things start turning around for us. Happy about that. And
for those of you wondering like what Jay does and what I used to do, because I used to work with Jay.
Right.
I'm sure you can piece it together. You're all relatively intelligent people, but
and I've talked about working.
I used to work, and Jay currently works in a behavioral health unit,
a big facility. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of clients that live there. There's multiple schools on campus,
Right.
and different kind of programs for people of all ages.
It's basically cognitive therapy for kids with behavioral disorders and several other psychological disorders, but it's all managed through medication and cognitive therapy. The downside is in all of these industries, if you never worked in the mental health industry at all, is you gotta go where the funding is to keep to keep whatever you're doing afloat. If you are a facility, you have to go where the funding is. And unfortunately, the funding changes based off of media and popular perception. So as of late, there have been certain disorders that get more of a light shed on them than others. And when they get the light shed on them, they get the funding. The downside is to continue the funding for the kids that you can help. Sometimes you wind up taking kids into a program that only very, very barely make the minimum requirements to get in. But since they make those minimum requirements, you bring them in. And what you wind up doing is you wind up creating an environment that could help some, probably won't help all. It's a broken system like a lot of them are in the United States, especially when it comes to mental health, and there's not enough money that goes towards mental health funding and stuff like that. A lot of insurances now are no longer offering any type of mental health to the employees that are under that health insurance plan. So it's not like a PSA or anything.
But it's kind of a surprising thing that it hasn't been
right.
It comes and goes. You hear about it and then it's gone the next day. It's one of those things where
it is.
It's I guess to some people not a pressing issue, or
well,
they just want to dismiss it. It's like, oh shucks,
when
and then they just move on and do their thing.
It was autism. They were bringing in a lot of autism clients into a behavioral health unit, and I'm like, well, that doesn't really make sense because we got kids with ADHD, we got kids with bipolar, we have a lot of.
But unfortunately, my program has always been a little bit more of that mixed bag,
right?
Because even the autistic kids were a lot of times on the higher functioning scale, where you're right. They just kind of meet those minimal requirements to certain degrees, and
it's tough to make a highly specialized program for kids because so many of the disorders are comorbid diagnoses. So you wind up getting a kid that's bipolar, that's also drug dependent, that is also attention seeking, and has it
and a very low IQ.
Right, and also it's all coupled with
at times
with an intellectual disability on top of that. So it's very tough. You have to tailor a program to one person while still tailoring the program to all people.
Right.
It's
very tricky.
Mental health is a very, very tricky field that unfortunately it takes extremely brilliant people to really crack the code on how to help people that suffer from mental health disorders.
Thank you for calling me that now.
And unfortunately, the funding doesn't go to them. So the brilliant people go where the funding is. And then you wind up with staffers like Jay.
Damn it, you were leading to that.
I was.
11 years, David. 11 years on the 26th, which is today.
You know what's crazy?
My 11-year anniversary is today.
We've known each other for 6 years now. In March, I would have March 2012 is when my first day in your unit.
Wow.
And you were the dude that came in. I started on a Saturday. Jay came in completely hungover and sat in the corner.
Was I?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Probably.
This is Jay 8 years. This is Jay 6 years ago. So yeah, of course you were.
Yeah.
You were in your mid-20s then. I was in my early 20s then.
Flush was still going out until 2 a.m. and everything.
Dude, I remember it vividly because this
3-4 hours of sleep.
Because this giant walks in the door and he's wearing bright red basketball shoes with sweatpants. And you had a hoodie on.
Oh, it was a weekend then.
Yeah. It was a Saturday. Okay. And you had a red hat pulled down over your eyes. And it was 6:45 in the morning. And I just clocked in. And I'm supposed to shadow Jay for the day. And he literally just walks in with on his phone, clocks in, and then walks to a dark corner of one of the housing units, and then just sits down in the dark. I sat
This is what we do on a weekend and try to let the kids sleep in and you just sober up.
I sat there and I must have watched like some morning cartoons or something because there's just nothing else to do, and I didn't bring my cell phone because like in orientation they were like, you cannot have your cell phone if a kid gets a hold of it. Untold terrible things could happen to you and stuff like that. I think I was like deer in headlights for about the first day or so, and then after that I really got it.
Yeah.
Well, actually, my first day I got blood spit on me. There was a client who...
Well, I had a restrained kid on my first day, too.
There was a client, which in the industry now, they're not called clients. That's
resident.
Me and you we were trained at a time when they were clients or residents. Now they're consumers. That's what they call
we call them residents right now.
So this young man, he hurt himself in a way. He was hurting himself, and unfortunately sometimes that involves a restraining procedure. Now restraints aren't used often in mental health, not much anymore, especially when you're dealing with juveniles. So there was no like restraint chair or anything like that. This wasn't a prison. A restraint is pretty much like a hug. You have to hug them, and it happens a lot, but it never happens alone. And I was with somebody else. And unfortunately, this young man bashed his own lip open on purpose and then began spewing blood all over me and another guy, Jamar. It was me and Jay's good friend.
Yeah.
And Jamar wore a plain white t-shirt to work that day. I had blood rain down on me. I was just like, wow, what did I sign up for?
Yeah.
I think it was the day that we wound up chasing a kid who had stolen a van that I looked around and I went, who are we helping? Who are we helping?
It's just a stepping stone in their lives and hopefully for the people that work there, because honestly,
how many years you been there, Jay?
I know, 11.
It's the biggest stepping stone ever. It's halfway across the river already.
I tell you, man, new people come in, I'm like, just go.
Just go away.
Why? Don't come in. Don't come.
Just go away.
Don't do it to yourself.
Do you train people and you're just like, go away.
I'm training a supervisor right now as we speak, and it's just kind of funny.
How are you training a supervisor and you're not a full-fledged supervisor yet?
I practically am.
Okay. I practically am and getting the pay for one that
well,
is.
I get paid a supervisor rate when I'm
you make more than a supervisor because you get your overtime plus plus the supervisor wage when you're doing supervisorness.
I probably make $10,000 more than them.
Oh well, then don't do what they do. Those are the suckers.
But at the same time, they're only working 40 hours a week, and I'm working 60.
Unless you're going to go finish your degree and then become a program lead.
They want me to.
You should. I mean, other than doing that, you should work front office there.
They want me to.
You should work front office.
I am just a stubborn little shithead that doesn't want to go to school.
When those people from New York with all their mental health funding come down here to southeastern Pennsylvania to drop their little so-and-so off who just punched a teacher and has had behavioral problems his entire life, it's your face they should see. Because any mother would see you and go, oh, yeah, he's going here.
First person, yeah.
Sploosh.
Sploosh. Yes.
Especially those single mothers that come down from New York.
Plenty of them.
Mm. That's your role there. They need to roll you out just to be like, you should just be swinging dick PR. And by the way, here's our resident cocksmith, Jay. You can take him for a ride.
He has a private office in the corner here. Mothers, please.
He has a private tantric office.
Please sign in, and the waiting room's over here.
No, we have to keep our prize dick clean. So please deposit your blood test so we can check them for VD before you go in. All right, Jay, what were you up to, man? Other than having a shitty week at work that we just spent 13 minutes on.
I know, my goodness, I'm sorry, everybody, but no, I was a little under the weather, but I got through it for the most part, and. This is I watched some things, but I'll talk about that a little later. But I had a funny run-in with this girl who I knew a long, long time ago.
How old
probably
is she?
About 10 years. Well, when I knew her, she was 15. She used to work at this shop, and I used to date her boss, the shop owner.
Oh my God! Please don't tell me you knew someone when they were a juvenile and you're dating them now. Please don't be that guy.
But my buddy is.
How old's your buddy?
So, 29, I think.
That's not that.
She's 25, so it's not like
That's
it's
not
not. It's not weird. It's not weird.
That's not weird.
But whatever. But anyway, so it's just weird because I haven't seen this girl in like a decade. But she was like a gorgeous young girl. She was a model, whatever. And for whatever reason, I saw through social media over years, like she was been like traveling around. She was dating this guy, like this punk guy with like face tattoos. She got a face tattoo. And
she got a face tattoo.
She's a beautiful girl. And I'm like, why did you do this to yourself?
Why did you Mike Tyson your face?
It's crazy. I know. It's right on her forehead. It's like I don't know, some kind of design. But anyway.
Oh, it's a hairline design, right? It's like right along her hairline. Yeah.
I don't know exactly what it means.
That's not bad. That's not too bad.
It's not that bad, but
I find that attractive. I mean, like when you say she got a face tattoo, it makes me think like
I know.
Like she has a flaming skull on her fucking cheek.
No.
She painted her face like a cat.
No, she still looks good. But it was just one of those things where it was funny to see her and bump into her and ironically have a horrible night with two old friends of hers.
Well, Jay, real quick,
pronounce their love for her and try to kiss her.
Wait, who did this?
Friends of hers. She just got back to America 2 weeks ago.
So
she goes out with these old friends of hers, these guys.
So these guys have been like they've pretty much been.
They've been pining after her probably for years.
They've been stalking her on social media, and
probably
like you were, but you had the decency not to say anything.
Yeah. I haven't talked to the girl. I only know her really, and then essentially she comes next to me.
She's just another chai vet to you.
She comes next to me because she's like so freaked out because the one. Got mad at something, and then the other guy tried to kiss her and pronounce his love for her, like
all while she's dating your buddy.
No, that's later on.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
I'm just getting to that. So immediately we just started chatting up and catching up and whatever.
How are you,
my buddy?
How are you going on 33 and living in this world of drama?
I don't know. It just kind of stumbles into me
because she's 25. That's why, Jay.
Probably, but
get out of that.
It's not me. It's now my buddy, but who loves that because he's single now and he's just.
Here's a little.
She was like a moth to the flame. She knew he was an asshole, and later on told my buddy. Later on, when we went to another club, your friend is such an asshole. He keeps on hitting on other girls, but I have to fuck him. That's what she told my buddy. I'm like, oh god.
She said that about who? About you?
No, about my buddy. And ever since then, they went home.
So she told you
she slept with my friend.
Too many buddies.
I had two friends with me.
Okay, there you go.
I had two friends with
Jesus.
me. So she goes home with him. They've been together.
Everybody gets a hole at the end of the night.
They've been together the whole like past week or two or something like that. And I just can't believe it. I'm like, my God, dude. Like they went like spontaneous trip to New York on day 3. I'm like, what the fuck, dude?
Get out of that. Get out of all that.
He loves drama.
All those friends, Jay.
And I'm like, come on.
You know how me and you have been talking over the past couple of weeks about how we're going to transition you to adult. We're going to transition you to adulthood.
They're fun though.
We're going to transition you to adulthood, and there's some people that love drama in that way that drag you into that drama. Clearly, that it doesn't technically.
I'm not really involved.
It doesn't.
She's still a sweet girl. I mean, and it's not like she's crazy.
Right.
Or anything,
it doesn't affect your personal life when you go home and stuff like that, but it does affect your ability to find a girl your own age around when you're out in public with people like that, because a grown-ass woman, like if me and my wife were sitting at the bar and didn't know you and your group of 20
you would hate us.
Your 20-year-old friends, we would look over and first off, Lauren would go, that motherfucker's got gray hair. He has no business being with them, first off. And she would point right at you.
So that means I got to start dyeing my hair. No,
she would point right at you. And then secondly, she would look and she'd be like, God, do you remember being that age and being an asshole? And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, I fucking hate them. Like that's who we would be, them at the bar looking at you and being like, and then any other sane woman our age who you might want to attract is doing what me and Lauren would be doing.
Right. I know. And the problem is, like, we are eye catchers. Like, my buddies are tall, and the one friend has long hair, big bush, looks like Jason Kelsey. And
did you just
and the other
describe it
girl
as you've seen the man without pants? Got a big bush? What? You're talking about on top of his head? I'm sorry.
No, he's got like a beard like Jason Kelsey, and like, long hair. Like,
so when you say bush, that generally
I said bushy beard, I thought.
No, you just said bush. You just said bush.
Same thing.
Jay and his friends just walk into the bar, dick swinging, just literally pants already at their ankles, just walking around. That's why everyone looks at you weird.
and a girl with a forehead tattoo. I mean, we have a beacon.
Which, by the way, a forehead tattoo, I have to assume for the guy dating her, it's a bullseye just the same as a tramp stamp was, right?
He said he landed. He did say he landed on it that night.
10 points.
Oh, gosh. So raunchy.
Yeah, definitely.
I know. So anyway, moving on from that, I haven't really watched too many things. Homeland is back on TV. I'm getting into that again. I'm trying to. I haven't really got into too much stuff. I went to the movie theater. I saw Annihilation. I will not talk about it until we review it. It's going to be multiple weeks away until we review this movie.
We are reviewing it in 7 weeks when it comes out internationally. So
yes, and I'll just say I saw it twice in theaters, and I will see it again when it comes out on Netflix before our review.
Perfect. Well, no, we won't get it on Netflix. You're going to have to use my region unblock.
I'll come over to the podcast studio home theater.
Yeah.
To check it out.
Yeah, because that's what I'm going to watch. I have a region unlock for my Netflix, so I will watch the Australian region unlock for it, and we will review it with Paul from Countdown Pod. So I didn't really do a whole lot last weekend. I didn't really have a chance to. There wasn't really like a whole lot going on. But this week I went to a wedding. It was very strange. I have a coworker. He was there. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you doing here? And he goes, I'm the bride's cousin. I was like, yeah, I'm the bride's cousin. Oh, shit, we're related?
Really?
Yeah, really.
That's weird.
Yeah, and it's like, why didn't I ever put that together? Like, it's from her other side of the family, from her father's side of the family, and I'm from her mother's side of the family. So she's like my third cousin, and he's like her.
It's not like you have social media, so it's not. I don't.
So
you can piece those things together somehow.
I can't. No. So that was an awkward moment when I was like, because I don't particularly talk to the guy a lot at work, so it's like, hello, I recognize you, but
now you're forced to say hi more often.
Yeah. Now it's like. We don't share a chromosome or anything, but like we technically like we could wind up at the same family functions together at times and stuff like that. And I'm not a very sociable guy at those type of things, so like now I'm gonna have to be forced into conversation when I don't want to be at times.
Dave's not good at that.
No, I'm not good at that. I'm good at sticking to my people, and usually at family functions, I like to fly under the radar. Be there early. So you can be the first to leave and no one can say shit about it. And bring your kid, because your kid's nap time and your kid's bedtime is the perfect excuse to get you out.
It's a good buffer.
As far as films that I watched...
It's a great reason to leave an awkward conversation, too. Right?
Yeah. But I did watch some movies this week. Some of them were just old horror classics that I wanted to revisit. So I got the Shudder network on Amazon Prime. So Shudder is a network that caters all to horror movies. So I watched a ton of horror movies. Some of them good, some of them bad, some of them just I had nothing else to do, so I watched them. Like I watched this one zombie one that took place post-Civil War called Exit Humanity. It's terrible. It's boring. It's the worst, not the worst zombie movie I've ever seen, but it's pretty bad. But I also watched Nightbreed, which is a Clive Barker classic from the late 80s. I watched Night of the Creeps, which is a Fred Dekker film, and Fred Dekker is currently he's more known for his writing, but he's currently writing the script or currently just wrote the script for Predators.
Nice.
The Shane Black Predator film that's going to be coming out later on this year. Nightbreed I was not too crazy about, but Night of the Creeps I absolutely love. Night of the Creeps is just this strange story. Like it starts off on an alien spaceship with an alien science experiment landing on Earth, and parasitic alien slugs can burrow into people's heads and then turn them into undead nightmares for the living.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's very cool. So it's like you have to, a headshot kills them, but like when you do, all the slugs, all the worms come flying out of their heads and just scamper off and stuff like that. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I really enjoy it. It's so cheesy. It's so 80s. It's so cult horror. Yeah, I just absolutely loved it. Other films that I watched John Carpenter's The Fog, another cult classic. It's a film I saw years ago, but because we did a lot recently talking about John Carpenter when we did The Thing, I was like, let me go revisit some of these things that I've seen. Let me go check them out. And The Fog, it's definitely far tamer than The Thing is. I think, remembering it when I was younger, there was some very scary things that happened in it for me when I was like much younger. And I'm watching it now. I was like, it's interesting and it's good, but it's not the thing. It's just not quite there. Like I don't.
Well, it doesn't have that classic rewatchability as the thing too.
I think it was because it takes place throughout an entire town, and instead, like it might have been serviced better by like a group of people surviving this fog held up in one place instead. But I still really, really, really enjoyed it, and some of the elements that I got from it, echo throughout all of John Carpenter's films, especially his music, because that's one of the ones that he did the score for himself, and I love John Carpenter's scores. I watched a film called Honeymoon. Now, Honeymoon is a film that actually came out in like 2014. It was one of those. It's basically like an indie horror film, but I watched it because Rose Leslie is in it. She played Ygritte on Game of Thrones and is currently engaged to Kit Harington.
Oh yeah.
And okay. I find her gorgeous, even though
you do. I know
she's like super skinny.
She's too skinny for me. Like that nude scene in the cave, I was like, ooh.
She's very skinny, but there's just one thing that draws me to her.
Put 10 more pounds on her at least.
She's Scottish. That Scottish accent. You know nothing, Jon Snow. If she could straddle me and say, "You know nothing," and I'd be like, I'm done. I'm done.
All right.
The film was not that good. I'll be honest with you. It was not that good. It is an alien invasion type movie. It is like one of those
I'm wondering how her career will go in the future. I'm not too confident with her career. She wasn't. I'm not exactly sure if she has that kind of raw.
But here's
talent.
the thing: Kit Harington and everything else he's done other than Game of Thrones, not great either.
I know, but he hasn't done that much either at the same time.
Yeah, but
that could be for a reason.
We'll see.
Or the shooting schedule for Game of Thrones. I don't know.
I'll watch her in anything. I'll watch Rose Leslie in anything.
All right.
I mean, until she reaches like 40, in which case then I won't care anymore. Two other films I watched.
Find me a new ginger.
Cabin Fever. Not the original, the remake that came out about 2 or 3 years ago. What baffled me about this remake is that the first 2/3 of the film were the exact script from Cabin Fever. The exact script. And the crazy thing is, Cabin Fever that Eli Roth directed years ago, back in like 2004, wasn't that good of a film. So then you remade it using practically the same script, and you made it worse. And you actually made it worse. I couldn't understand why this got greenlit. You know what's better than this? Zombievers. If you're into horror films, go watch Zombievers. Tons of fun. Expect that to be on Mark's movie cult, because maybe I will make him watch that.
Maybe it could be.
Maybe I can come on. And then the final thing I watched, which is the thing that I am most proudest to say that I finally have seen. Finally saw Coco.
Yes.
And I bawled my fucking eyes out. I cried so much.
How can you not?
There was like
my lord,
the last act of that film just had me. It had me in tears, and then it had me laughing. Then it had me in tears, and then it had me like at the
when he sings that song at the very end. Finally to the grandma. Oh my!
When the grandmother sings that song, that's when I lost it. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, when she starts singing along with it. Yeah,
I didn't just cry. Like I ugly cried. Like I was like.
You're blowing your nose in like the pillow that you're hugging, like
like the worst part was like Lauren was watching it, and Lauren doesn't cry at films. Like she may get like a mist in her eye, like she may get like the tiniest little tear that like builds up and then gets sucked back down. And my daughter was not paying attention to it after the first act, so she would occasionally like catch in when like one of the bright creatures was on screen or something, but she was not checking in the whole time. And for me, I'm sitting there and I'm just like, it's so beautiful. Everything is so beautiful.
Now you know why it was on my list.
Everybody is so good, and I love everything about it. I was just crying like the whole time. Like I could not stop crying at that movie. But I absolutely loved it. It's too soon to say it's my favorite Pixar film, but I really enjoyed it. I thought the humor was very well done, and
I loved it. I
thought it was very smart. I thought that
the music too. Did you like the music? That was one of my things that I really enjoyed.
I actually love like
Spanish guitar. Like I always love Spanish guitar. It's one of those things. Vicky Cristina Barcelona has a great a lot of like a score with that, and
I love mariachi. Like actually, like a lot of people love the song Hotel California. My favorite version of Hotel California is mariachi version.
Ooh, I like to hear that.
Yeah,
because I do love Hotel California.
So it's I really enjoy the music that was in it, but it was just a story, man. It was just about following your dreams, and like even if you're not supported in it,
you don't believe in that stuff, it's so irrelevant. It's still just really about just being
family.
It's just family, man.
Yeah.
And just being respectful, loving the people that you love, and just being there and being nice and kind and pursuing your passion and your love and your dreams.
Because I didn't get to review it, and because I know you loved it, I'm just going to give it a score. It's an A+.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I scored it. I probably did. But gosh, that movie. Whew, yeah, I told you. I mean, I'm not a big animated fan.
You're not
at all, and this one got me. So
the dog made me cry.
Kudos.
The dog made me cry. And not for any particular reason. Not like the dog dies or whatever. But the dog made me cry, and I was like, oh, like there's just this tipping point where like my emotions couldn't take it anymore.
It's a beautiful film. It really is.
Pixar's just the fucking best at what they do. They may have a misstep here or there, but when they nail it, dude, they fucking kill it. And I was really down on when I first saw the previews for that, because I was like, oh, that's the Book of Life. And then I watched the film, and it's not the Book of Life at all. It is not the exact same film done over again. And that was one of the things that amazed me, that like on the surface,
let me ask you this.
It may look like one thing, but
some people hated me because I didn't the twist. Did you see that all along?
Yes.
Yeah, of course you did. You're good at that.
Yes. Did I know who it was? No. But I did know that the person who he thought it wasn't.
Okay.
I knew that. And then I think I realized it the second that he realized that person wasn't who he thought he was. I'm really trying to be
putting, I know. You start putting two and two together.
I put it together.
Right.
And I was like, well, if it wasn't him, then it must have been him. And because he was in the same position, and I told Lauren, and she's like, can you stop doing that? Can you just stop? And I'm like, I can't help it. Like every movie's like a trail of breadcrumbs, and then like the trail ends and you get to where you want to be, and then
you process movies a whole different way than I do. I know. And yeah, so I thought you would. I'm happy you really liked it.
I
loved it. Yeah,
I so enjoyed it.
I mean,
I really enjoyed it. I just wish Logan was like. I don't wish she was older or anything. Believe me, I love her.
But you know what the best thing about this, Dave? This is fucking timeless, and she's gonna enjoy this movie in like 4 more years or something like that. Whatever
example
it might be.
Of that. I mean, last year I tried to get her to watch Finding Nemo, and she thought it was dumb and stupid because it didn't have singing and dancing in it like the rest of the Disney movies that she loved did. And then when she finally watched it, it's all she wants to watch now. It's
all in due time, man.
But then the problem arises where like that's all she wants to watch now. Occasionally I could slip in Finding Dory, and she'll be like, okay, whatever, I guess I'll watch this. Even she knows that Finding Dory is not as good as Finding Nemo. Like even she goes, yeah, it's all right.
It's like, all right, I'll give you a break. I'll watch this one now.
Like, I guess I'll watch the one with the octopus instead of the one with turtles. Whatever, it's fine. But this week she did really surprise me because she pulled out a film that we haven't watched in a really, really long time. She pulled out How to Train Your Dragon, and I was like, "Oh, we haven't watched that in like 6 months. Let's do it!" Because I get so excited when I'm not watching the same shit over and over again with her. And then this week my daughter really, really, really made me love her more. She when she woke up on Saturday morning, it's just me and her on Saturdays because Lauren works. She told me, she's like, I want to watch Ray, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck. I'm thinking, she wants to watch a blind black man play the piano. This is strange.
That's where my brain went to.
Yeah, exactly. And then she's talking about Ray from Star Wars. She wants to. So I put on Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and we watched that. And then she said she wanted to watch Ray, and I was like, "Oh, the second movie's not out yet. I can't really show it to her, and I don't think I'm ready to show her that one because it's a little darker than the first one.
Yeah.
So we watched Forces of Destiny, which is a like 2 to 3 minute shorts that were on Disney XD, and they follow women in Star Wars. So they follow like Sabine, who was in Rebels, Hera Syndulla, who was on Rebels, Jyn Erso, Princess Leia, Ahsoka Tano, and one of the characters they obviously follow is Rey. It's all women in Star Wars, and they're all very small stories, and some of them have a larger impact on the canon and the storyline, and some of them have no impact whatsoever. But she loved it. She was loving every minute and asking me questions about Star Wars and asking me questions about lightsabers and about Yoda and like wanting to know more and wanting to get into it more. And I'm just like, yeah, fuck yeah. Yeah, we could do this all the time. All the time. So I got her to watch a little bit of Star Wars Rebels with me. Like,
wow, fantastic.
I had a fucking bitchin' Saturday filled with Star Wars.
I'm really surprised this early, yeah.
And then Sunday I watched Coco and cried my eyes out. Star Wars,
a hell of a weekend for you.
Star Wars also made me cry this week because the Star Wars Rebels episode, I won't spoil anything other than that. Star Wars Rebels that came out last week, season 4, episodes 10 and 11. If you're a Star Wars Rebels fan and you haven't seen it yet, be prepared to cry. All right, Jay, let's go over and let's get into our beers so that we can get through our movie homework. Now it's time to get into some motherfucking beers. But since the Winter Olympics have just ended and Germany had a very strong showing.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, they did better in the medal count than the United States did. And that leaves me a little sore. So I would like to play a clip from a film where some Nazis get their comeuppance.
Well, if this is it, old boy, I hope you don't mind if I go out speaking to kings.
That's right, that's Fassy.
By all means, Captain.
This might be my favorite line of the entire movie.
There's a special rung in hell reserved for people who waste good scotch.
Goddamn right.
Seeing as I may be rapping on the door momentarily. I must say, damn good stuff, sir. Now, about this pickle we find ourselves in. It would appear there's only one thing left for you to do.
And what would that be?
Stiglitz.
Say auf Wiedersehen to your Nazi boss.
And then there was just one left standing.
Oh, Quentin Tarantino.
I absolutely fucking love that. Like,
And that's just a slice
that's just
of
a slice
this whole scene,
right.
you know?
I didn't want to play the whole thing because
can't.
it was mostly
It's
in German.
well over 5 minutes long. I mean,
The whole scene, the whole thing, from the second they walk into the bar to the second that Aldo talks about.
Oh, gosh, yeah, you're probably right. It's probably only going like 15 minutes.
We got guns pointed at you up here. You got a gun down there pointing up at us. That's a goddamn Mexican standoff. I do, and I love Brad Pitt in that role too. Like everybody,
fantastic.
Everybody, and this was like, I knew who Michael Fassbender was at this point, but like when you saw him in this film,
I didn't
like,
really. I don't think so. And to be honest, I was hesitant with this movie coming out because I
really?
really did not know what to expect. I did not expect it to be as fun.
It's
and
based on like
entertaining
on a cult film
and engrossing. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, as far as the dialogue, the scenes, I mean, his scenes are like long dialogue heavy scenes, and they're so witty and punchy, and it's fantastic.
So many people love, like, I mean, when they talk about the best Quentin Tarantino films, Reservoir Dogs is, the first one comes up.
Not for me.
Pulp Fiction comes up a lot.
Sure.
But for me, I thought like some of these he's gotten better with age. Like I find a lot of those talking scenes, like a lot of those scenes where they sit down, are far more engrossing in his later films than they were in his earlier films. Like in so much of his earlier films, it's the way the character looks and what they're saying that's interesting, but it's almost the way they look is there to complement what's being said, because what's being said isn't always necessarily as strong. But when you get to these later films, they're very like the conversation and the cadence that everybody has, everything that everyone is bringing to their performance is absolutely amazing, and
everything is firing on all cylinders,
Yeah.
and they're on purpose.
and I
for
go
a
back
reason.
and forth with what's my favorite Quentin Tarantino film. Is it Inglourious Basterds? Is it Django Unchained? You know,
It's hard.
Is it Kill Bill Volume 1? Because
I love that.
arguably Kill
Yeah.
Bill is the most, especially Volume 1, is the most watchable one, right? Like that's the
is.
one you can watch
The first one is
over
definitely,
and
yeah.
over and over again, because those fight scenes
And you
keep
do.
you
You
in
see it on TV all the time. Not the second one so much, but the first one, absolutely.
My name's Buck, and I come the fuck. But yeah, I mean, as over the top as that one is,
Sure.
Is it the best? Cinematically, is it the best? From an actor standpoint, no. But is it the most watchable? Yeah, definitely. Death Proof, I watch a ton in the same way. Is it the best?
That's our personal cult favorite film of his,
Yeah,
for sure.
It's the one he hates the most, and it's the one that we love.
I know.
I love some of the shots in that film too, with the camera like right on the hood of the car.
To be honest, it might be the most watched movie of his that I've seen.
Yeah,
I think
this might
because I've done a lot of late night pop-ins with that movie. just kind of like it's a good. I'm a little fucked up. Let me just put this on in the background and just kind of enjoy the little.
Jerk off to the jerk off a little. Do you play,
I don't have a foot fetish like Quentin.
Do you play some slow music on your way home so you can touch yourself? But no, Inglourious Basterds, I think, rivals that in a way for me too, because I absolutely love Inglourious Basterds. I think like it's the blended comedy that's in there with it, and so many of Tarantino's films have that element in it. But it's not just one person in this film. Like with Inglourious Basterds, the comedy comes from a lot of the time from King Schultz, right? In this, it's
a lot of the characters.
Right, it's Christoph Waltz bringing a little bit of comedy. It's
Brad Pitt and his crew.
Brad Pitt, right, and even like right there in that scene, where he says like, "Go out speaking to kings," like there's a little bit of like of levity in the way that they go out. So everybody, it's just the one film that I can look at that he did where I was like, God, every character is interesting and engrossing in a way that probably hasn't been done before since he did Pulp Fiction. Jay, unfortunately, the beers that we're going to review do not match up to our drunk scene.
No.
We should have picked some German beers.
No. They would not like to go out in the blaze of glory by drinking these beers. This is not the fine, good scotch that they were drinking. No.
Yeah, you were very into that scotch line from a man who does not like scotch.
See, I just think of it as bourbon then. I'm a bourbon lover. I tell people all the time, like, look, it is what it is. I mean, not all whiskey is whiskey. Not all scotch is scotch. Not all bourbon is bourbon. I mean, it's I'm very specific. I mean, I like what I like. That's it.
What do you think it is about scotch? Think it's too peaty? Think it's got too much of that earthy flavor to it?
I don't like the earthy oakiness. Yeah, I don't like that kind of stuff.
Oh, I love that.
Or the woody. Yeah, you love that stuff.
Oh, I love it.
I can't get into it. I try.
I love having that.
I try my hardest.
I love having that liquid wood in my mouth.
Yes, you do.
It hits your lips,
sliding down your throat,
and it tastes so good. All right, Jay. Why don't you start off with your beer, man?
Well, we are both reviewing Beach Haus Brewery out of Belmar, New Jersey.
Kind of German. Beach Haus.
Beach Haus.
Beach Haus.
I got the Hop Bomb. It's a double IPA. And that's pretty much all we know about it because they don't have too much information out there on the net.
So it's called what? Oh, on the net. Hop Bon, like
B-A
Hop Bon. So like
Bon.
like
B-A-H-N.
Autobahn.
Yeah,
like
Bon,
the Autobahn.
yeah,
So
right.
Hop Bon.
Bon.
So hop on the Hop Bon.
This is a very weak double IPA or double IPA. I mean, I don't understand why this is a double. This is like the most banal double IPA I can ever imagine, really. And it's got an odd floral finish to it that I can't really put my finger on.
It's not even floral. Like it has like this like very lemony, like almost like dandelion type flavor at the very end. It's
something. It's something. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it's not bad. It's not bad. It's very just banal and drinkable. I would still give it a 2.5 out of 5. I mean, it's just middle of the road. I mean, but it's not something I would recommend to anybody. Put it that way.
All right. And I am drinking the Beach Haus Brewery Cruiser IPA. Now, Jay, Beach Haus is actually from a brewery that's not too far from us in Belmar, New Jersey, which is like one of the beaches that is closest to us.
I go all the time.
So, when we were looking it up online, they're actually a really small brewery. Like we are probably the outskirts of their territory that they distribute to. They're probably very big or not very big, but at least frequently bought more so than here in southern New Jersey than here. But so I mean they're clearly a brewery that's kind of like just starting out. So I give them like a little bit of a crutch in that
I would visit them this summer.
I think it says that they started in like 2007. I think I saw somewhere. So like it's not that long. Like we're talking like 8 or 9 years that they've been around, and that is not a long time for a brewery. That's not even a long time to perfect like a recipe. It's one of the reasons that our good friends at Broken Goblet. That's one of the reasons that they haven't really started bottling stuff. They'll do growlers and crowlers and stuff like that, but they don't feel that they've perfected any of their formulas enough to slap a label on it and say,
Well, it doesn't help that they're very they're perfectionists too.
Right. But there's nothing wrong with that, because when you slap a label on something and you put it out there, it represents your company and everything that your company stands for.
Exactly.
So I'm not gonna lie, right down to the label. The label is boring and pedantic.
Yes.
And
especially mine.
Yeah, and so I like Broken Goblet very much adheres to the fact that when they put a label on something and they put it out there and they sell it, that they want quality inside of it, because every time that thing touches your lips, you're seeing that label. Anyone watching you drink it sees that label.
Absolutely.
And this isn't a knock on Beach Haus. I'm just saying that's one of the reasons that you see differences in breweries and stuff like that. Broken Goblet, well, I think they have some great beers. They haven't perfected any of them. They're not ready to do what Beach Haus is doing. However, maybe Beach Haus themselves is not ready to do what they're doing. So
perhaps
this Cruiser IPA that I am drinking, it just like Jay's, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing terrible about it. It is just extremely run of the mill. Like it is so average IPA that I won't give it a 2 or a 2.5. I'll give it a 3. Like it is good. I could drink more than one of these if I went to a place and they had your mortgage payers on tap, like your Yingling, Miller Lite, Budweiser, stuff like that, and they had this. I'd go with this over those. So yeah, I'll give it a 3 for that alone. But as far as the flavor goes, there is no big floral hit up front. There is no dry hopped flavor to it. Mm-hmm. It has a very like Pilsner up front, very sweet up front, very bitter back end, and right in the middle you get a little bit of darkness. You get a little bit of malt in there. It pours pretty dark for an IPA as well. So
it does.
Yeah, it's just not anything I'm crazy about, but I wouldn't hate on it too much. So I give it a 3.
Okay.
Ooh, Jay, we're coming up to our very last movie homework.
Yes.
For a little while. We do have
the big finale.
We do have a movie homework challenge that's been given to us now by a Podfix member, but that'll be a short one. We are going to review 3 movies in one night, and me and you are going to watch the same movies. But that we'll save that for the end of our movie homework to announce what that is. So coming up, Jay is going to be talking about the Japanese anime classic Akira, and I will be talking about a film that most of you have never heard of, but it might turn out to be pretty good, called Little Children. All right, Jay, movie homework. You have me watch Little Children with Kate Winslet, Patrick Wilson, Jennifer Connelly, and a lot of others. A lot of other people in that cast.
Jackie Earl Haley.
And he is he played Rorschach in Watchmen, which is what most people know him from. And you watched Akira. We're going to get to yours second because there's a whole lot more to talk about with Akira than there is with Little Children.
There is overall.
One's genre defining, one fits right in with the genre and is
Of
exactly
Jay's Corner.
Yeah, it's everything you would expect from a film that's given to me by Jay. So let me get into Little Children. This film came out in 2006 and it was directed by Todd Field. Todd Field was actually the director of In the Bedroom, which is a film I've heard you mention before, Jay, but I've actually never seen. What is In the Bedroom? Like, why is that such a...
It stars Tom Wilkinson, Sissy Spacek, Nick Stahl back in the day, Marissa Tomei. It's just a New England couple. Their son dates an older woman, and they has kids, and it's just like
another slice of life
drama.
Another slice of life drama.
Right.
Yeah, which is exactly what Little Children is. And then like I look at some of the other stuff he has. Like, he did one episode of the HBO series Carnival, and like other than that, he really never transitioned into doing anything like big. He's also like an actor. Like he used to be an actor for most of his career, leading up to writing and directing and stuff like that. So, this is actually the guy that has a small slice of a role in Eyes Wide Shut with Tom Cruise, playing his buddy, the piano player. This is the same guy. So, this is a movie that is based on a novel that plays out like a novel on screen, which I kind of enjoyed for its uniqueness. That's one of my problems with it, actually. Like, it's not that the narration is over. Well, it is very overdone. And what I realized
it's over the top. Sure.
That the narration is there so much because it adds gravity to every like minor situation. But what I didn't like was it ended up being kind of like a crutch to the script, where it's like they couldn't figure out how to write the script without the narration. So instead they decided to do a lot of narration and to leave it in there, where I feel like that takes a little bit of the onus off of the actors to really sell a scene, because the scene's being described and being played out for the audience already. I'm not worrying about their performance as much as actors, because what's in their head is being spelled out to me by a narrator right now. And it also gave it like this feel like they were more of characters in a play rather than people playing out a part of their life.
Okay.
And it's not if it was bookended by narration, it probably wouldn't have bothered me as much, because there's actually a point where narration doesn't happen for a good 20 to 30 minutes in the film. And I thought, I guess the narration's finally done. Maybe we're into like the meat of the story. And then the second I started thinking that, the narrator came back in. And at that point, that was when I realized I didn't need the narrator. I got what was going on with all of them. And some of it could have been explained in the beginning. They talk about, how Kate Winslet thinks back to an anthropology class that she had, and like what her role is with these women who were here, and like that. And I'm sitting there thinking, and I'm just like, I could have gotten that by her expressions alone, the way she was looking at them, the way they were looking at her. But
I feel like I really liked the narration. Now, I'm normally not that kind of person that likes that kind of stuff, but I think for the way this was shot and how bleak it is and how it's laid out and played out and the way it's shot overall as far as direction, it worked for me really, really well as a whole. And it was a lot more enjoyable for me to watch, especially for the subject matter being so dark in certain aspects. And you're right, it is a slice of life film with variations of different kind of characters.
No, Jay, I didn't describe
being
it
in the same town.
When I talked to you about it, I didn't describe it as just a slice of life film. I described it as a slice of life picture that follows three adults during their most foolish time in their life.
That is true. That is more accurate.
Because that was one of the things that really bothered me, right? Like, I almost understand Kate Winslet's role.
The Patrick Wilson one is the hardest one to sell.
It's not just like he's not just an asshole. Like he's he's too dumb to be an asshole. It's almost like you
He's
look at
like
him.
the old college bro that got the hot chick.
Do you want me to get real with you for a second?
Sure.
I felt Patrick Wilson was you if you ever got married to a beautiful, successful woman who's willing to do anything for you, who works herself to the bone, and doesn't really ask for much in return. And I was like, oh shit, that's Jay. It's swap out football for basketball at some point, or golf, and even the mom said at one point, and that made me laugh a little bit, chuckle to myself when Jennifer Connelly's mom in the film says, "Well, you know what happened with your father when he started playing golf," and I was like, "Ah, Jay." But no, I mean, it's not a 1-for-1 thing, because I felt like as a person, he was far more disrespectful to his wife than you would ever be to a woman. But and even though it wasn't outright, you know, it's not like he said anything to her, did anything to her. It's what he was doing behind her back, and it's like,
right. It's just one of those things where like there are two different kinds of marriages that they've been together for a long time, and they just act. Certain different spouses act a different kind of way over a certain amount of time.
All right, so here's my problem with it. I get Kate Winslet's issue. Her husband comes home and he doesn't even have he knows that she looks forward. She's been at home all day with the kid and he's been at work all day. He comes home, she allows him to go decompress in his office and stuff like that, do whatever he's got to do. And then he's supposed to come down by a certain time to take care of their daughter so that she can go on her nightly workout with her friend. And she looks forward to it every day, and he knows that. But instead, he comes home, doesn't give a shit about it, and puts a pair of panties on his face and whacks off, and then has the audacity to get mad at her for catching him doing that.
Right.
And it's not that jerking off's like a bad thing. It's the fact that, like, I think when you look at all the relationships in this film, it could all be solved with a 10 or 20 minute conversation. If they just had a conversation and communicated about things,
right? But don't
it all could have been worked out.
But think about it. Don't you see that like a lot of people are like that though? And
no,
over time,
right? And I said that's the problem with people, not the problem with the movie. I said that's the problem with people.
Sure.
Like it's a problem with relationships. Like Patrick Wilson, he's having sex with Kate Winslet because he's not getting sex at home. But at no point did he sit his wife down and said like.
But even while they're having sex, they have that conversation. Like, do you feel bad about this? She doesn't feel bad about it. He kind of does.
Right.
Because he knows that like there's no reason for him to be doing this. He has no excuse.
Right. She doesn't feel bad for it.
He's literally being an asshole, and he's acknowledging the fact that while he's fucking her, he's like, I feel bad about this.
Right. But so
it's an awkward little.
But it's weird because it's like I understand why she's upset, because here's a husband who doesn't pay a lick of attention to her or his own child. He just works and then comes home and jerks off at his computer and stuff like that. Yeah. She never confronts him about that at all. The conversation is never had. It's a thing she witnessed. It's a thing that happened, and then they move on from it, and everyone just buries everything down inside. Patrick Wilson tries to have sex with his wife and gets slighted because his son is sleeping in the bed with her, and she doesn't want to kick the son out. But he didn't offer to, let's go to another room then, and then you can come back and he can stay in the bed.
Right.
It's just a complete lack of communication, and the same thing is the same even for when it comes to Jackie Earle Haley and Noah Emmerich's roles in the film. So like Noah Emmerich is this guy who is staunchly against this pedophile moving in and stuff like that. And even though the nature of the pedophile's crimes are not entirely spelled out, people have rumors and they say what they think happened and stuff like that.
They're not. And I think what it shows, not says in the movie, is that perhaps this was something that wasn't as, let's just say it probably isn't as bad as people think it is. Right. In that kind of degree. Right. But he did go to jail for whatever reason. And his mother is the only one that's behind him as far as like supporting him to move forward since he's been out of jail or whatever. And through years and time, people gossip and all that kind of stuff. People just think he's like a complete like evil predator that's living amongst them, swimming in the same pool. Like, it's one of those things where it was really interesting.
But he does mention to his mother that's, even though she wants him to go on dates and stuff like that, and have a wife and be happy and stuff like that, he said that's not who I am. Like he said that's not what I'm attracted to. He understands that what he is attracted to is wrong, and he's going to stay away from it.
Right.
But he still wants to go to it. So it's like the one inside of all these characters. They all want to do good. It's just they do it in the wrong way.
Yeah.
But I think it's the third act where this film really fell apart for me, because when they decide to run away together, and I'm like, you're fucking foolish. Shut the fuck up. You're in your fucking late 30s and you're talking about running away together when you're fucking married with 2 fucking kids. Get the fuck out of here. Don't sit there and play fucking games with each other. Just one of them just needed to have the balls. Like, and I think it was Patrick Wilson that should have done it. Should have been like, this is done.
Right.
I'm glad I'm glad I was here for your single white female fantasy, and I'm glad that you finally got to fuck the prom king and the star quarterback and stuff like that. But I have a wife. I don't have a job. My wife provides for me. And I love my son. So I'm going to go back to that life. It shouldn't take skateboarding down a ramp and breaking your fucking body to come to that realization. And for Kate Winslet, if it's an unhappy marriage, you don't need an affair to spark you to leave. Just fucking leave. Just fucking leave. Or have the conversations.
And she's unhappy in other ways too. It's not just the husband.
She's unhappy in life, period. She never amounted to what she thought she was going to amount to.
But
I think that comes to a head during that book club meeting.
Oh, definitely.
When she kind of like has her revelation where she's just like, when she kind of talks about that character in the book where she's like, she was modern day feminism before modern day feminism existed, and she's like, and in herself she goes, well, I'm having an affair. Therefore, I'm a modern day feminist. And she's like, I'm just going to go take what I want and stuff like that. And it's like, well, the character in that book was slighted far more than you were. Mm-hmm. So, it's just I understand that the film is meant to have unlikable characters.
It's a character study film, really. I mean, that's really what it is.
I just can't stand
it's just
like
different
watching
kind of style, the way it's shot, and that's what one of the things that I appreciated was it's shot in a different kind of way, where the various different kind of characters handling different kind of things.
It's funny that it's called Little Children and the 2 people in the cover,
because they're all acting like little children in a lot of ways.
Right, the adults are
Mentally.
acting like the little children.
Exactly.
And the children are acting like children too, but they're allowed to because they're children.
Of course.
So I did wind up enjoying it. I did enjoy it, Jay. I enjoyed it more than Diving Bell and Butterfly.
Oh, well, I would. Yeah, I'm not surprised.
And I think I even enjoyed it more than Talented Mr. Ripley.
Okay.
So
little surprised by that. I mean, I feel like they're kind of neck and neck as far as maybe
they're
but whatever. But I hate grading these Hallmark movies. They're tough.
Straight up B+. B+.
Okay.
Like a full letter grade up. Then it's got its moment. It's just I can't stand seeing adults act like complete idiots. It bothers me. And I don't know. I hate watching your type of movies, Jay, because then I feel like I get on like a moral high horse watching them, and it's like that's not who I am at all. I never usually take any type of like moral stance, but like I can't stand watching people act that way in movies because it's like I know no one in real life would really act that way. Like that's what bothers me, and the people that do don't make it.
Well, I mean, I feel like a lot of people do.
Name one time that you were in.
I'm not saying me personally.
No,
I'm just saying like, I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of people that like maybe various degrees of that kind of stuff.
So how's this? They generally what happens like someone has a revelation and would say end the affair, right? Everybody has a revelation all in one night. All these 3 storylines that are happening concurrently all come to a resolution in one night. Well, in one very serendipitous happenstance.
That's Hollywood.
Yes,
that's not. I know.
That's what the real drama would have been if one of the 2 people involved in the affair had that epiphany, and the other one didn't quite go along with it, because that's real fucking life.
Until it comes to a head when he confronts the person or something like that, or whatever.
And then she gets fed up and kills her husband with an axe, and then goes and shoots him.
Right.
Because
Naturally.
That's how real life goes. That's how real life works, Jay.
All right, cool.
Let's get into the better. I say better because it's my film that I gave to you, but the far more interesting film to discuss tonight.
Yes,
Akira.
1988's Akira, the anime classic that took over the Western society of film goers. Really, I mean, for anime, this was the biggest movie at the time, and still holds up to this day. I think for many lovers of anime, and this movie is visually absolutely breathtaking for the time period and still holds up to today. I can't believe the amount of detail and just this is like a hard R movie, visually. I feel like in a lot of ways there's a lot of violence. There's a lot of language. There's a lot of
There's that scene where she shoots the military police officer in the face. And his face just comes apart.
It's brutal. It's brutal, and this is set in Japan, and it's absolutely
not just Japan, Jay.
Film
Neo Tokyo,
yes. And this is a dystopian Tokyo in the future. I think it's actually set in 2019. Funny enough,
it is, and the end of the film takes place at the stadium that has been built for the 2020 Summer Olympics.
Crazy.
Jay, you know where the 2020 Summer Olympics are? Tokyo, Japan.
Tokyo. Yeah. So this guy's smart. This filmmaker, Katsuro Otomo, I'm going to try to pronounce that. He wrote and directed this film.
Katsuhiro Otomo. There you go.
Beautiful, beautiful work. It did not translate well, dialogue-wise, for me at least, in English. It's one of the things that bothered me so much was the dialogue and the way they pronounced everything, which is understandable. I completely understand.
It should be known that
I think the weird thing a lot of it was
Japanese animation and anime happens completely differently than Western animation does. In the West, we film the lines first. We record the lines first with the actors, and then a lot of times the animators go back and will animate in the style and the cadence that the actor brought to the role. In Japanese animation, the animation is done first, and then words are added into it. So there is a bit of like a disconnect with that, where it might translate just fine in Japanese when done or dubbed into English. It doesn't always work so well because the sentences have to end when the character's mouth stops moving and stuff. So yeah, they do wind up doing things like, the voices were recorded before they did the animated film in this one. Right. It's not normal. No, it was not normal for that.
But this is an expensive budget. This is a $10 million budget,
right?
For a movie like this.
It was like 300 million yen or something like that. It was huge.
And it shows. I feel like it shows. The attention to detail is insane.
When you're done with your review, we'll get into some of what really makes this a cult classic. What really makes this like a huge film for not just anime fans. It's how it was influenced by Western cinema, and how it influenced Western cinema after its release.
Our listeners, our fans know I just don't watch animated movies normally. This is my first anime movie that I've ever seen. So it was a struggle. It was a struggle for me to watch. I saw it in 2 parts, and it was hard for me to get into it. And I think a big part of it maybe might have been the score. There's no score really. I mean, there's not much into it. There's a lot of weird expression shots. I could not follow and get into the story or the characters a lot of times.
There's
bouncing back and forth.
No, see, there is a score, and it happens in the beginning. The beginning, like it would introduce you to the world. There's that very heavy, like it's kind of like synth, but it's also like very bass heavy. It's like like it's
which is neat. Yeah.
I really enjoyed like the opening shots of this film.
Oh yeah,
amazing.
They're amazing. They are. It's. I just didn't care whatsoever about this movie. I couldn't get into it. It's just not my thing. And I'm sorry. I respect this movie. I respect it, but I don't like it. And especially in the final act, I really don't like it. I got confused and got lost. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I couldn't, Well, I got what was going on, but I just didn't really get into it. And it got into some really heavy, deep themes that Dave will get into, I'm sure, later on. But, this movie, I just overall, visually on a standpoint, I really respected and loved as that, in 1988, coming through on screen was something that's really original, I'm sure, at that time. And still just holds up, I think, in a lot of ways.
So before you score it, there's a lot of elements that come together that make this film stand out in the way that it does. It's obviously the Japanese are still, or even in 1988, are still dealing with the events that happened in 1945 with Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The body deformation that happens in this film could be directly attributed to the body deformation that happened to people that lived in the fallout zones of both of those, the radiation zones of both of those tragedies. There were people born with deformalities all the time. It was not uncommon in Japan to see someone with that level of deformation. It also takes place after World War III, so it's obviously paying homage to that. It's a dystopian future. It's very much in the way that Japan existed post World War II. In this World War III world they're living in, so that's where a lot of those themes are coming from in this. But it's also told through the point of the youth, of the rebellious youth.
Yes.
So I
didn't mention too much of the story,
right?
But yeah,
it takes a lot of influences from Western cinema. Like one of the big influence on this was Rebel Without a Cause. That's one of the big influences on it. But another big influence on this film, and it's a more of a stylistic influence on it, was Blade Runner.
Absolutely.
A lot of neon, a lot of dark colors. So while filming this movie, a lot of anime and a lot of animation takes place during the day. The reason it takes place during the day is because you can very easily color palette a film like that when you wind up doing the animation for it. It doesn't take place at night because night adds shadow. Shadow adds different shades of color, and with different shades of color, you wind up having to color cells multiple times. So they ended up having to develop over 50 different new colors that weren't accessible to animators at the time just to make this film, which is why it wound up being pretty expensive for its time. And a lot of companies were involved in making it. And a thing was going on in anime at the time where, especially anime films, where they were all trying to one-up each other. And at this point, Ai Miyazaki was at the top of the game. So Akira was coming off of was coming off of films that Miyazaki was doing, which is pretty much the Japanese Disney. And they had been one-upping each other in quality for so long that by the time Akira came out, so much money was being poured into it by the companies making it. It did wind up being a pretty huge success.
I think it was number one.
Right.
I'm not sure where, but
because it went overseas and stuff like that, and it did well. Not great in the Western world. In the Western world, it's cult to us because it takes people time to like. I didn't see this film until I was probably either a senior in high school or a freshman in college, and I was enamored by it when I saw it, just for the sheer beauty of the film alone. The story, the story is a very anime story. It's very dystopian. It's very it's very futuristic. It involves powers that aren't very well explained and stuff like that. It involves character emotions that kind of come out of nowhere. But that's anime. If you've never watched anime before and this is your first anime, I could have lightened it up and given you like Ghost in the Shell because you would have understood that better because we've seen the live action film and stuff like that. But I really wanted you to see this because this was the first anime that I ever saw. This is the first one I ever saw.
Wow.
So, but this...
No, I mean, I'm happy I saw it. I mean, this is I've heard of it.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It's one of those things I didn't know really anything about it, and I was never going to watch it myself.
So what I'm getting to was like this ramping up of quality was happening, right? And all these companies poured money into this film, and the film made a lot of money, but it didn't make enough for everybody to really get their piece of the pie. So actually, a lot of the animators and a lot of the animation studios that were involved in making this film wound up going under, wound up going bankrupt making this film. And what wound up happening was after that, a lot of companies didn't want to invest in new anime projects. They didn't want to one-up Akira. So Akira pretty much was that where it
It's the shining star.
right. It's the shining star because it's basically Akira's like this nuclear bomb that happened in anime that stood above the things that came before it and laid waste to anything that could come after it for a good long time. It wasn't until the mid 90s that Ghost in the Shell and stuff like that started coming out that would pay homage to Akira and stuff like that, and funding was coming back into making films like that and to making television shows that are like
is
that.
Interesting. I mean, and I'm sure,
so
like I said before, I think this does hold up, and I think it will actually live on for a long time, and they'll get their money eventually.
No, they already have. Funimation, owns the rights to it now. The original author of the manga, which is actually, where the film ends, is actually midpoint in the manga.
And you can kind of tell.
Yeah, but also even the story, like you feel like you're kind of getting dropped in the middle of a story, don't you? You kind of feel like you're already watching this.
Absolutely.
You're watching.
You don't know what's going on.
You're watching the sequel to Akira.
Like, it takes a while to get into.
They talk about Akira a lot, but you don't actually see Akira until the very end. And it almost feels like the returning of a messiah, like because all the other psychic children worship Akira because of his power and because of what he can bring. He's really the only thing that can stop Tetsu and his powers going out of control. And we've already been told throughout the film that, this has happened once before. The film even starts with Akira exploding. We don't know that that's what it is, but we eventually get explained through exposition that was Akira exploding in the beginning of the film, which laid waste to Tokyo yet again, even post World War III. Yeah. So there's a lot of elements that go into this film. There's a lot of elements that make it stand apart, and there's a lot of elements that make it beautiful going forward and stuff like that. And even Western cinema now has been influenced by anime, and I think you can see a lot of directors being influenced in style by it. I would even say like a lot where Akira was inspired visually by Blade Runner. I would say Blade Runner 2049 is inspired in part visually by anime film as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely.
Well, I mean, without Akira, you don't have Ghost in the Shell, you don't have Cowboy Bebop, you don't have Outlaw Star, you don't have these type of dystopian, futuristic, stories. Trigun, I could name a slew of them.
It's something that really just pops off the screen and resonates, and it's one of those things that people just straight up fear. And at the same time, in the back of their mind, feel like could happen one day down the line. Hopefully not in their own generation, but
maybe not a boy turning into a giant pus monster.
Well, I'm not talking about exactly like Akira's storyline.
But the militarization of a world that is still recovering from war, and that's really when you get to it, that's really what the meat and potatoes of the story is, right? It's how we all react to fear, and it's how our government reacts to fear, right? Like the Japanese government is a military state because it's fearful of another world war. It's fearful of the youth that are rebelling against this militaristic law. The youth ramp up in their violence, and in turn, the military ramps up in their violence. Why it's a very violent film, because the youth are feeling oppressed, so they're rebelling. And when the youth are rebelling, the military tries to tighten.
There's no backing down on the youth either, really.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the great things, and that's why like Rebel Without a Cause is like an influence for this film, because it took place in the 1950s in the wake of World War II, and the height of Cold War and stuff like that. The world is fearful, and when people and governments react afraid, people react in crazy ways. I think you could see a lot of it right now.
It's not much more powerful than fear.
Yeah, and you can see a lot of it right now in our own country. So
absolutely.
So I think this film speaks volumes about a lot of political stuff, both that was going on before it, during it, after it, and it's why it holds up so well. And it, like I said, because not much happened after it, in anime, it kind of created this footprint, that kind of like this ripple effect that pushed everything away from it, and it's kind of stood up as like a pillar for the anime genre. And it's the reason that I gave you this and not any other anime film.
Yeah, no, and as far as if you want me to give this a grade, I don't know how to grade this exactly because do I like this? No, not really, but I do respect it and I do understand what
It's the balance, man. It's the
but I'm gonna give this a B, just a solid B.
fair enough.
This is a movie that I think I understand
Here we
and
go.
I can
when you get in these
appreciate
situations
certain things,
where you
but-
don't know how to review something because you respect it and you enjoyed it visually and stuff, think of it like a beer. Think of it like a beer that was like, this is a good beer. It's not a great beer. It's a good beer. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no, you're right, and then it's something that I can again with the whole dialogue thing. I get it. It's dubbed over in English. It's not played out the way it's supposed to be. If I knew Japanese, sure, it would roll out a lot better. And then the final act, it gets a little bonkers for me. But again, this is 1998. This is anime. Blah blah blah.
1988.
It's what do I keep saying?
1998.
Fuck.
If you age this film by a decade, it falls flat and makes zero money and does not become a cult film.
Yeah, this is not no.
You got to remember, for a lot of Western people, especially for a lot of people in the United States and other parts of the Western world, this was the first time they're really seeing this type of Japanese anime too. Before this, it was Speed Racer, it was Astro Boy, it was stuff like that. It wasn't until after this that stuff like Macross and stuff started coming out.
This is heavy. This is in your face, bold tones, bold subject matter, and a little bit of animated boobs. But
it doesn't ask you to take a walk with it. Like, it drags you.
No,
It drags you with it.
It does drag you with it, and you have to be on board with it. It's a tough watch. I'm giving it a grade where I think I have to find a happy marriage between me dragging myself through this movie because it's not my cup of tea. However, respecting the fact of what it has accomplished and has to this day, and I think it does hold up for current viewers who are into this kind of genre. So go enjoy it yourself. All your anime lovers out there, Akira, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. Jay recommends.
If they're anime lovers, they've checked it out, Jay.
Sure.
We're trying to sell people who aren't into this type of stuff into giving it a shot.
I don't know. Maybe
For visuals alone,
if you're interested at all, go check it out for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you've, it's on a ton of not just anime lists, but like top 10 animated films list.
It
top
is.
10, like
It's actually on top 100's must-watch films of the century. So this movie is a cultural phenomenon of many different kind of ways, and despite the final act getting a little on the weird side, despite the fact it's ambitious as shit, and it was meant for bigger things if it had the money back then. So it would have been pretty cool if they had the funds.
I'm still interested in seeing
Back
a
in the
live
day.
action.
It'll happen
version
one
of it.
day, I'm sure, in our lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, but I hope they don't.
I'm sure we'll
Ghost
be
in the
watching it. But
I hope they don't Ghost in the Shell it up. Like, I hope they don't tame the story down. I hope they don't tame the elements down, too much. I want it to be.
Well, I never saw the original Ghost in the Shell, but I'll tell you what.
You almost got that. You almost got that instead of this. But I realized you had already seen Ghost in the Shell and you weren't a huge fan of it, and I wasn't a huge fan of it either. And I was like, you know what? I realized that that only exists because this is here. So
True.
It's fair that we start here.
No, I perfectly understand why you gave it to me. Yeah.
Me and Jay don't get into cult films very often on the show. So I am a big cult film fan, but because we try to appeal to a more general audience, because me and Jay stay a lot more topical with stuff that's going on in current films, we don't really get to delve deep into that stuff. And plus, you'll get real bored hearing Jay talk about how he understands why it's very well loved, but doesn't get it.
Yeah, I start meandering on and on and on.
But there is a show out there for cult film fans. If you're only listening to this because we were talking about Akira,
it's a must listen.
And you love cult films, our good friend Mark, who does Movie Cocktail with us, has his own podcast out there. It's called Cult Movie Cult. And you can search it on iTunes. He's on Podbean. make sure you go out there and you listen to it. The first 3 episodes are all on Peter Jackson films. So, you got Meet the Feebles he talks about Dead Alive. Like he gets into the deep cuts of old Peter Jackson films before Lord of the Rings. And they go in depth and they talk about budget, they talk about the writing, talk about the shooting schedule. Like they just talk. They are 2 filmmakers talking about the making of indie cult classics that wind up, being films that not everybody loves, but enough people hold in high regard to keep it in the zeitgeist. And I love that. I love, because that's exactly the type of movies that I love and revere. And I get little children, Jay. I understand it. I understand Diving Bell and Butterfly, but it ain't for me. And Akira's not for you.
Exactly. And that's what movie homework is all about, really.
But if you're into that stuff, make sure you check out Cult Movie Cult. They're obviously, Mark's a good friend of mine. I've been friends with Mark about as long as I've been friends with Jay. So actually, I've known Mark longer than I've known Jay. And I just really want to support that podcast because I think coming out at the gate, they've had 3 or 4 quality episodes that everyone should check out. And also, I would love everybody to join us for our next movie homework assignment, which we will be taking a brief break from it for a while, but me and Jay we've been challenged by Justin of So I Married a Movie Geek, and me and Jay are going to review 3 films together in one segment. We're not going to take 3 weeks to do this one, because we need to pull this off like a Band-Aid and just get it the fuck over with. This is like anal sex. Lube it up and put it in.
It's already like anal sex for me. God damn it.
Jay, Justin would like us to do one final movie homework for the 50 Shades trilogy.
Wow.
Can you handle that much Dakota Johnson bush? Unkempt bush.
Do I have to see Jamie Dornan's bush?
You do, unfortunately. Uncircumcised as it is.
Is it?
I don't know. I'm just making it up. He's not Jewish and he's from Europe, so yes, probably uncircumcised.
So we're going to have like one big session just talking about all 3 films all at once.
All at once, yeah. But we have to watch them all. We got to get through it. 2 of them are on HBO. We're going to have to actually...
All right, fuck it.
We're going to have to pony up. You have that movie pass. I'm going to have to actually pony up hard money to go see 50 Shades Freed.
Right. I mean, I got HBO Go app. I can watch that for free, the first 2 films, and then I'll check it out in theater, I guess. In theater, by myself, probably in the theater.
Or I'll just find a good copy bootleg and we'll watch it here in the theater.
Yeah, or that. Or that.
And after that, Jay, movie homework is going to go away from the main show. Movie homework is going to move into our Patreon episode. Surprise. Me and Jay are doing it. We're going for Patreon now. I've always said I didn't want to do it because the whole point of a podcast is you just plug in, you listen, stuff like that. Our Patreon episodes are going to be the things that people have been responding to us and enjoying the most. And movie homework, a few people have reached out and said that they like. Every single one of those. There won't be a 30-minute long bullshit, let's catch up with each other type thing. We will come on and move into a movie homework, and we're going to try to have a lot of fun with it. We're going to try to do everything we can to keep...
The whole point is just like to give our fans and our listeners what they want, and just have good fun with it, and just go all for broke with it.
Oh,
Really, it's one of those things where we don't have to worry about any kind of cookie cutter
full
editing. This is full throttle Dave and Jay.
I feel like the regular show is like always said with like, but no offense at the end of it.
Right. There's nothing of that. There's none of
the
that.
Patreon episodes will probably have offense in them. You probably
yes.
If you are a sensitive,
these are for our diehards.
If you are a sensitive person, do not become a patron.
Yes.
Do not become a patron. If you're politically sensitive, if you're gender sensitive,
because trust me, Jay's gonna go off the hook.
I think we might even.
I'm actually gonna really relish this part because I feel like I got to deliver for the people.
Oh, dude, I think for Patreon, we really need to get into like when we talk about personal stories, we're gonna get deep into personal stories.
I will. As long as your dad is not a Patreon, I'm gonna be good.
He's never put his credit card on the internet for anything.
Yes. I don't have to worry about it. All
that's
right,
That's how the Chinese hackers get
good. So family parties, I don't have to worry about your dad giving me that like side eye like.
So that type of stuff is all going to be coming when we release our Patreon. That's going to be coming up later this year. And after our 50 Shades thing, movie homework goes away, and
Bring
me and
it
Jay
on.
are going to be trying to do a few new things with the regular show. We're obviously going to keep doing new movie reviews because me and Jay go to the movie theaters a lot to see the new movies, so we might as well talk about them. But we're gonna start looking into new ways to really make the show more enjoyable. What I really want everybody to do is, if you are a fan and there is something that you would like us to do, something you want us to do more of, something that you're interested in, I want people then, this is for real this time, just fucking do it. Reach out to us on Twitter at Super Movie Pod, or reach out to us on Facebook, Super Movie Bros Podcast, on there. And just let us know, what you would like to hear from the show.
Yeah, don't be afraid at all. Just tell us what you love, what you like, what you want more of, what you dislike. Anything. It doesn't really matter. We just want to have a conversation. We just want to change it up a little bit. Taylor make the show more geared towards what you guys like and what you love.
Because it's not easy being two guys talking about movies, because there's 1,000 of those out there.
Sure.
And the only thing
it's
we
tough
can do
being a weekly podcast because news just comes and goes like that,
Exactly.
and it's impossible to stay on
the
top of
only
that
thing we can do differently than everybody else is just be us. And I think that's the most important thing,
and that's what we like doing.
Right,
so,
which is why I've liked doing the intros that we do, because even though the intro segment, the first segment, is so long, it's you and I catching up, but it's the one segment that me and you do where we are us, where we are like me and you catching up at the bar. We're just doing it on a microphone.
Sure. Which is where this show originates from, really.
Anyway. Yeah, just beer and getting drunk.
Yeah.
just getting drunk.
Talking, about shit.
There's also other places that you can find me. Coming up on the Podfix Presents channel on Podbean and on iTunes. Just search Podfix Presents. You will find the Podfix Presents short series that I'm doing there called A Certain Point of View, where I and other Podfix hosts take certain topics and aspects from Star Wars. We put a microscope over top of it, and we dissect it from a certain point of view. And it's honestly, it just winds up being a lot of laughs. It's a lot of fun. We get deep into Star Wars, but then we also learn to have a little bit of fun with the thing that we love so much. My penis. No.
It is a beautiful thing.
So make sure that you're checking that out, and be sure to keep following us for a couple weeks, because when the international release of Annihilation happens, we will have that review, and we will be doing it with Paul from the Countdown Pod, which
can't wait.
Good friend of mine, a great guy to talk to. I've been on their show, but they have not come over here to be on our show. So super excited to have Paul over here to join us for a review. It's going to be weird because Paul is like this perfect center sect in movie watching, where he's just on the light on the darker side of you, and he's just on the lighter side of me. It's weird. It's going to be strange. He's going to be our perfect counterbalance.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And it's a perfect movie for that, too.
Oh, it is. That's exactly why I was like, this has to be him. Because he speaks highly of Ex Machina in the same way I do, and he speaks highly of Dread in the same way I do. But I've heard him review other films, and he talks about them in the same way you talk about some of these other films that I've had you watch. So it's like,
interesting.
Ooh, man, he's right.
I'm intrigued.
He's right in our line. So be sure to be following us on Twitter at SuperMoviePod. Be sure to be checking out the Podfix Network to see all the new content that gets posted there every week. That's www.podfixnetwork.com. B and J will be back next week with Movie Cocktail, joined by Mark from Cult Movie Cult and Rob, the other show that I'm actually a co-host on, Fan Film Boys. And we will do Fan Film Boys will also have a Super Mario Brothers fan film episode.
Also a very, very fun podcast.
Yeah. And then after that, me and Jay will be back with episode 86, and I will be able to regale you of the tales of California, as I will be going out to California to hang out with two different Podfix members, Justin from So I Married a Movie Geek and Chris Brayton from More Gooder Than podcast, our pod father. So it's going to be a ton of fun.
It will. And check us out on Untapped. Dave and I will be uploading what we're drinking, and maybe even Dave from California what he's drinking. The beers out there. That'd be kind of cool.
Ooh, I didn't even think about that.
Perhaps, yeah.
I will send you some pictures and
Send
some
me
reviews.
reviews and photos, and I'll put it up. And and I'll update you guys of my weekly house sitting days with the turtle here
right.
in the
in the
podcast studio.
So you just gave me an idea. Like there's the Dirty Dozen, right? I'm gonna do the Bakersfield Dozen. I'm gonna review 12 different beers while I'm in Bakersfield, California. I'll review 12 different beers and I'll send them to you.
Perfect.
That is gonna be my goal. It's gonna be tough to meet because I don't know how like I'm visiting a man who's at his house with his family and I'm staying with them. So like my level of drunk has to stay on the
You got time. You got time.
I have to stay just shy of getting drunk to do this podcast, but like drunk enough to like still have fun. So like it's gonna be an interesting balance that I'm gonna be doing while I'm out there. So I want to thank everybody for listening. It's the longest outro ever. Have a great night.
Cheers.
Cheers.